Hi and welcome. My name is Dana Connors, and it's my pleasure on behalf of Mary and myself to welcome you to this month's edition of Maine View Business Magazine. This show, as well as all shows during this series, hopes to be able to bring to your attention those issues, those opportunities. We hope that you will help us help you to better understand the challenges that we face as a state, as well as the opportunities available to us. We're going to do that by bringing to your attention the issues, the leaders that make a difference in our state's economy. We've got two very special people that will help to demonstrate the special quality of the show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I recently put in a high-efficiency furnace in my home.
The new technology means more efficiency.
You get a system that's reliable.
I'm very pleased, particularly with the energy saving.
We save 24.91% exactly.
Close to 30%.
Somewhere between 30 and 40%.
The old expression is a win-win for everybody.
I think it's better for the environment, and I'm saving money. I mean, it makes me feel good.
Support for this important program is brought to you by the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, located at 125 Community Drive here in Augusta. Telephone 623-4568. The Maine State Chamber of Commerce, the voice of Maine business.
Welcome back. Strong economy, bold leadership for Maine. That's the title of, or the theme of this series. It's also a very appropriate way to introduce our first of two guests. Both of them emulate strong leadership. Both clearly are on the edge of economic opportunity for our state. Our first representing the state is the Speaker of the House, Bob Nutting. Bob, it's a pleasure to welcome you back.
Dana, thanks for having me.
Well, it's a very busy time in the legislature, but before we talk about this session, I want to take a moment because too often we forget to acknowledge the positive and only focus on the problem. And when I think of this first year of the 125th, I can't help but to take this opportunity to congratulate you in your leadership position, as well as all the legislators and our administration, because it was a very successful session, not only demonstrated, in my opinion, by what was done, but the way it was done. The bipartisan spirit, the approach to very tough issues, very compelling problems, the appropriations dealing with financial issues, was very historic in that respect. So I thank you for that, and I think all of us appreciate it, and we want you to know that.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing that.
Well, and you know, the issues not lost on any of us, regulations, taxes, health care, are very, very high priority. But at the same time, when we look at the second year of our session, we also note that issues also very important to us have been teed up. The energy, the workforce development, the governor has even spoken a bit in terms of continuing to look at taxes. And that's remarkable because it is a short session, expected to get out by the 1st of April. And I think what stands in the way to dealing with some of those things, I'd love to have you speak to it, is what we've all read about, what we've come to know in this first month, the budget once again. This time, it's about Medicaid, Maine Care as we know it, and the expectation and the hope and the expressed hope by the governor that we get it done by January because we're going to run out of money by April. Where are we in that process? What can you share with our listeners today in terms of making progress? Because it is the end of January.
It is the end of January, and thanks for that question. Obviously, the thing that has been on our minds since the beginning of December when the governor released the draft of his budget has been the budget. But we mustn't forget, I think, that there are 15 other policy committees that are working on the issues of their own. So we have an energy issues, we have an educational issues, transportation issues. Those are all working their way through the committees. the focus has been on the Appropriations Committee, certainly. We are now changing from January to February, and in doing so, I'm pleased in the progress that we've made. Obviously, we would love to have done it sooner rather than later, but I think as it stands now, we're close to coming to some resolution that deals with the immediate problem, which is to keep the doors open and keep Health and Human Service providers paid into April, which has been in danger, frankly.
Yeah, and I think all of us recognize the compelling, challenging nature of dealing with the safety net, dealing with the impact it has, and the struggle around financing. So I guess I can say, based upon the experience the past few years, that if any committee can do it, this Appropriations Committee that we've seen tackle tough problems can sort it out. A tremendous vote of confidence to them, and express hope that that will be the case. So
yeah, I think that you have the same committee in place now that a year ago people said they'll never get a budget, they'll never come together, they'll never figure it out. My counterpart in the House, Representative Kane, and I, as well as the Senate members, have early on decided that we need to let the Appropriations Committee do what they do best, and to stay out of the mix as long as we can. At some point, leadership is involved, but the Appropriations Committee is keenly suited to do exactly what they do, and that is hammer out tough issues in a budget.
This is a compliment, and I hope you take it that way, but I guess...
We'll see.
Okay, we'll hold judgment on that, right? I would characterize you as a quiet but very effective leader, and I think that the success of the past, as well as the relationships that have been built this past year, reflect that. I guess I'd also characterize you as a person that is socially sensitive, but when it comes to money, pretty frugal. And as you look at this past year, as well as this year, there's a lot said about the issues, but how do you feel, if my characterization is correct, and I believe it is, how do you feel about what has happened to tighten up our budget, to deal with some of the spending priorities and kind of get our financial house in order? What's your assessment of that from your point of view?
Well, I don't think you've pegged me wrong. I think I'm not flamboyant. Certainly, the quality that I like best about myself is that I'm able to choose good people, put them together on a team, and get them to work towards a common goal. If I have a outstanding characteristic, that's it. And I have just an outstanding team, both in the Appropriations Committee, chairs of my committees, and in my office itself. Those people have allowed us, me and us, to move forward. And the relationship that I have with Emily Kane from being on the Appropriations Committee has been very important to that. I think if there's anything that I look back and sure, there are the taxes, there are the pension issues and all those things, but I'd like an overarching look at what we've done is to kind of be summed up as a good stewardship of taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
When we try to keep the tax rates lower, when we pass the largest tax cut in the history of the state of Maine, over $150 million, that leaves money in people's pockets. Moving forward with that same stewardship approach, we looked at the problems around the Maine Turnpike Authority. We're now beginning to look at perceived problems in the Maine Housing Authority. Those are the types of things we expect government and agencies and politicians to treat people's money like it's their own. Sometimes I think that's hard to do. So if there's any one thing that we've done, I think that I would hope that people think we have been good stewards of their money and are working on that process every day. Even to include most recently the discussion around the clean election funds.
Right.
When the matching funds were removed by the U.S. Supreme Court, there are some members of the legislature who would frankly like to double or triple the amount of clean election money going to candidates. Me and my party, we're not interested in doing that. We think spending money in tough times for politicians to buy lawn signs and do radio commercials is not a good use of taxpayer money. So I think it's stewardship sums it up.
Well said. Let me While you were sharing those thoughts with me and our audience, I couldn't help but reflect upon an issue that great advancement was made in this past session, that being healthcare. But I think, to your credit, you put that forward certainly with the expressed need that's before us. We need to do something. We need to be sensitive to what's happening at the federal level, but as a state, we need to move forward. But I think you also acknowledged at that time that it may not be perfect, that we may need to do some things. And I think one of the things that we have found is that overall, we've seen progress, but there are areas of the state, usually, and I think predictably, those are more rural, those have older people, that have not seen the benefit that we'd hoped. I'm to understand that there is an effort to try to fix that, to modify that. Can you share with us what that might be or what your efforts are in that respect, or even if that's correct?
I think the health insurance costs in the state of Maine for years have been increasing. I think the average recent increases are in the neighborhood of 19 or 20% increase. We thought that was just not good policy, and I've thought since day one that the Dirigo Health Program was not the solution, nor is socialized medicine. I'm a great believer in the free market. You provide enough options to consumers, they'll pick the right option. So we went ahead with LD 1333, which was the health insurance reform package, knowing that certainly down the road there would be improvements that we could make. And we are beginning to look at those improvements. There are a lot of groups that are seeing significant reduction in the cost of health insurance. There are others who are seeing a 4, 5, 6% increase, whereas remember now the annual increases have been close to 20%. Certainly there are pockets, particularly of small groups, particularly of elderly people in small groups and small office practices, that have seen significant increases. And we are looking through a legislative remedy to address that small problem. No plan ever turns out to be perfect. We knew ours would not be, but we think overall it has been a terrific success, and it's going to mirror the health insurance piece coming from the federal government in 2013 or 14.
That correction you hope to be able to see in this session?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a committee that is working on a couple of improvements. I don't know what those improvements are specifically, but as I say, the problem areas seem to be in very small groups, in elderly small groups, as you might have in an office practice with a couple, with an additional employee. Those are the types that are seeing some increases that we'd like to address.
This will probably surprise you, but I just got the signal that we have about 2 minutes left. And as we look at the rest of the session, there are some pretty big issues that are teed up with about 2 months, maybe 2 months and a few days to go. Issues that the governor brought forward that we've heard him talk about: energy, top priority. Making Maine work was very clear that this was the number one issue. At the same time, the misalignment sometimes between the skills that we provide in our educational system and what the workforce needs, the businesses need. Not to mention the teasing up of, I say teasing, bad choice of words perhaps, but the governor's reference to we need to continue the tax package, and pension seems to be an area that has his eye on. What can you say about any of those? There hasn't been a lot of detail yet, other than the fact he hopes to do something in this session about all three of those.
I know that the governor's administration has been working on the education piece. I'm told that we can expect to see some significant education items in the next, by the middle of February. The energy piece also is being worked on. I don't have a good idea of when that time frame is. The other item of the reduction in the taxes on pensions is something the governor has been a proponent of, as are we all. The problem with that is it is a significant amount of money in this economic climate. I'd like to see us do something, but to address the whole problem, I think, is more than we can handle at this present time.